for today is that we'll have a brief look at the background and policy that surround this significant Level 3 reform. We'll look at the structure of a T-level, the Common Core, the occupational specialisms, the milestones that we as an organisation have to sign up to with IFATE, how you as providers can get involved, a little bit about the industry placement, and then the ongoing support and guidance that's going to be available. I'm going to apologise now. My voice is not fantastic, so if it does go, I've got a very helpful colleague, Sam Ashman, in the background who will pick up and take over. Please can I ask that any questions that you have go into the chat. We're not going to deal with live questions today. We have the same webinar going out again on Wednesday, and we'll be doing the same thing there. All questions are going to be collated. They will be answered by the T-level team, not just by one person, and they will go out to you next week, but they will also appear on the website next week, and there is a dedicated T-level page, and you will see that as we go through this presentation. You'll see where it actually lives. So, then one other thing to apologise for, just in case it happens, is I am on a farm, in a working farm in the office with a sign on the outside that says keep out, but my father-in-law does not always read it. So just in case there is an interruption, that would be what it is. So the background. You're all aware that there's a skills and post-16 education bill going through the House of Commons at the moment. And within that Skills for Jobs white paper, there is the inclusion of the review of the Level 3 post-16 qualifications. And the purpose of that review was to try and come up with a simplified system of qualifications that students can use to support progression to their next step beyond the 16 to 18 stage. It was to hopefully enable stronger links between the classroom and the workplace, much like the apprenticeships have done already with standards. And again, as with the technical qualifications, it's about putting the employers and the apprenticeship standards at the heart of the design of the technical qualifications that sit in the middle of this T-level, not to be confused with the technical qualifications that you are delivering at the moment, although there are some similarities. There is going to be removal of 16 to 19 funding approval for Level 3 qualifications where there is significant overlap with T-level. So we would see that starting, it says from 2024 to 2025. That doesn't actually mean the wave 4 qualifications that we're in now. That is for the first wave of T-levels. For our qualifications, we would expect that to start being removed from 2026. In addition to the T-level, there will be additional qualifications written to support skills that have not been captured, either because there's no framework in place, no standard in place, or no standard being delivered, or it is in a niche and specialist subject. There will be the development of smaller, high quality A-level size, so 360 GLH qualifications that can sit alongside A-level, as well as being the development of Level 3 qualifications to support adults who have wanted to either upskill or want to re-enter and retrain in the land-based sector. So moving on, T-level program composition. The T-level courses all have the same compulsory elements, whether we're talking about engineering or animal care or equine or plumbing or construction. They will all have a core theory, concepts and skills piece, a specialist skills and knowledge piece, which will be linked to an occupation or career and almost certainly linked to an existing standard, and an industry placement with an employer. Just excuse me. Sorry, I didn't want to cough on a microphone. You will all be aware that T-Level is a full-time 2-year programme. It will be allocated UCAS tariff points, so it will be compatible in value to 3 A levels, very similar to how the technical qualifications, the 1080s, work now. And students will also be required to work towards the attainment of maths and English at grade 4, as they do on other 16 to 19 programmes. Note, this is now working towards. They don't necessarily have had to achieve them by the end of the programme, but as a condition of funding, they must continue to study towards maths and English at level 2 or GCSE. So the core is going to take up between 20 and 50% of the total technical qualification time. And again, that's going to vary subject to subject, sector to sector. It will be graded A star to E, and it will cover all concepts and theories and core skills. So for land, that will be common across both pathways, which we'll look at in a second. It will be assessed with an externally set and externally marked exam, and it will also have an accompanying employer set project. So that will be set annually. For the occupational specialism, that will take between 50 and 80% of the TQ time. That's going to be graded pass, merit or distinction. It's based on the occupational maps as they stand and or standards. It covers practical skills and knowledge in that particular occupational area. And that assessment, that occupational specialism, will be assessed through synoptic assignment, which covers practical skills and applied knowledge, much like what those of you that are doing technicals are already used to. So it's your significant synoptic assignment and an external exam. But in this case, the external exam will cover the core. It won't be covering mandatory content like it does in the technical, where you then have a synoptic as well. So this is a wider reaching coverage of assessment. In addition, learners will be expected to carry out an industry placement, which is a minimum of 315, approximately 45 days, as well as working towards level 2 or GCSE in maths and English. And then clearly there will be tutorials, which will include enrichment and pastoral hours too. So for land, all of the land-based learners will complete a common core, and then they will choose the pathway and occupational specialism within those. So we have 2: animal care and management, and agriculture, land management and production. These break down as follows. So for the agricultural, land management and production, the occupational specialisms as they stand currently, and they do link to the current standards, just bear that in mind, are crop production, which is agricultural and pot grown crops, floristry, livestock production, habitat management, land-based engineering, trees and woodland management, and then ornamental horticulture and landscaping. For the animal care and management, there are just 2 occupational specialisms: equine care and management and animal care and management. Milestones. Now, these milestones have been set by the Institute, and they provide stages of sign-off and agreement from Ofqual and DFE. So what that means from where we're concerned as the awarding organisation is the Institute for this next academic year, while we're in the development phase, have given us set dates and times to be complete with what they call the deliverables. So content round 1 And by content, they mean content in the wider sense, content within the T-levels themselves. So content round 1, there will be validation sessions occurring from now until the middle of January, with a deliverable date of the 24th of January. And this will involve, and we'll explore this a little bit further on another slide, this involves content that's already on the plan being looked at by providers, by employers, by professional associations, and by subject matter experts. So it's quite a wide group of people who will then sign that off to go to the Institute for the Institute to see whether they agree with it or not. And the root panels who were put in place, who actually came together with the content in the first place, will be providing feedback at these points as well. So you'll see that these sessions occur very, very quickly through this next academic year, and there's not a huge amount of time to breathe. So please forgive Teams now, for those of you that are already involved, for contacting you sometimes what might feel quite smartish for a comment about a piece of content, for example. And whilst they try and carry these content meetings out as meetings to allow discussion, occasionally it can be that a piece of content is sent out to you as the provider and or subject matter expert for you to comment on and feedback through some sort of simple questionnaire, or it may be that a one-to-one phone call takes place with you. So that engagement is planned to enable you to be involved as best as possible. Now, a similar process goes ahead for the core exam. So for the core exam, there will be the content of that core exam will be explored, and some sort of mock paper will be put together, which is something, again, that will be signed off by yourselves and employers and professional associations. That then gets followed by the employer set project. I beg your pardon. Followed by content round 2. So content round 2, as you can imagine with Land, the content is absolutely huge. Therefore, to be able to get all of the content signed off by effectively the end of January is not something that's going to happen, not with everybody coming to any sort of agreement. Then content round 2, that completes 28th of March. Then there's another section on core exams and employer set project with an end date in May. Then all of the occupational specialisms, they hopefully get signed off at the beginning of June. And then the final sign off with any tweaks and changes that may have had to have been made in the interim would be signed off in July. So as I say again, just be mindful that some of these dates do come up very, very quickly. So for those of you that are engaged, please be aware that's how it works. Now, clearly, one of the reasons for engaging with you now, and while we'll be regularly engaging with you throughout the development of the T-level process, is we need your input. We need to know that what the Institute have written and the content that's been amplified is going to be fit for purpose. It's going to align to employer need. It's going to have deliverability, but most crucially, is going to give sufficient progress to that young person to enable them to make informed choices at the end of their course. And whether that is going on to apprenticeship, whether it's going to employment, or whether it's gone to HE, they will have a rounded level 3 education, which will enable them to make those choices. So we therefore need employers, providers, professional associations and subject matter experts who have got that specific knowledge to be involved and be part of the development. Part of that involvement means that you can help shape it so that it meets the needs of the sector as we see it now. Obviously ensure that it's manageable to deliver, particularly with yourselves within the provider sector, that it also supports the new landscape and vision, not just within technical education, but within how the world is changing with respect to land-based education. So the 3 skills that we will be looking for are writing content or amplifying content, writing, helping to write questions and materials to support content, reviewing content, and validating content. Now, for us to be able to be in touch with you, we need you to complete. I'm not going to click on the form because it'll take me out of the presentation. Just bear with me a second. Sorry, coughing again. So the purpose of this form, it'll, when you open it up, you'll see it's really generic. It'll ask you a little bit about who you are and where you come from. It then will move on to and it'll ask you which sector you are. So are you an employer? Are you a provider? Are you both? Are you none? It will then go on to a page which talks about your specialisms. Do you want to help with the core? Do you want to help with content? Do you want to help with all of it? You know, you might be somebody that's actually a subject matter expert in equine and horticulture and livestock and agriculture, in which case you can tick all of the boxes to say so. The key thing then at the bottom of the form is to ensure where it says, please can we get in touch with you, and it will have that standard marketing statement that you do actually put yes. We aren't going to send you adverts for anything, but we do have to have your permission to get in touch with you in order to enable you to write, to review, or to validate. So it needs to be a yes in that box before you press the submit button, because if you say no, then we don't have permission to get in touch with you. Okay, so that's really, really key. Industry placement, and some centres I'm aware of, having spoken to a number in the last few weeks, have already been receiving funding to actually work at giving a more expanded industry placement already, so that they get a feel for how that timetable's in with their delivery of the current technicals. You will already know that every T-level includes an industry placement and that they have to be a minimum of 315 hours, but can be longer. And completion of that industry placement is going to be compulsory. It's not something that learners will be able to avoid in any way, shape or form. Now, I'm stepping down from Sitting Guilds as a technical advisor, but what I am hoping to be, and I'm already talking to a college about this, is I am, or my family, we are employers, we farm, and we are really, really excited with our 2 farms. We're relatively close to 3 land-based colleges, and we're really hoping that we can actually be part of that. We want to be part of being able to provide industry placement to learners. And I would urge all of you as providers to talk to your employers about this and about this change as well, because in order for this to succeed, these learners are going to need that time invested in them. So from a support and guidance perspective, we now have a dedicated landing page for the City and Guilds T-levels for land-based. And on that, you will find details of both provider and employer events, bearing in mind this is literally just the launch, any provider resources that become available, learner information, information about engagement with HEs, progression from T-level will all be on that page. And as this builds, and these webinars will be happening probably every couple of months as we go on through the next academic year, and each time there is more information, that webinar will be built with that information. Additionally, you will have newsletters provided to support what's going on as well. So again, when you sign up onto that form, that will enter your details into a preference database, and it will make sure that you get that information emailed to you as well. So hopefully visibility and communication is going to be something that's easy to access. So this is just a snapshot of where we are now, and this was actually written by one of our development managers who's working on the agricultural pathway, or that side of the development, so working on the core as well as beginning to look at the occupational specialisms. So clearly their first official milestone, as you saw on the previous slide, is towards the end of January, after Christmas. And they are already working with iFate on some proposed content changes to that outline content. To find out more about that, you need to be involved as part of that validation or writing team. So just one for you there. They are already working on amplification of the core content, and that the validation of that is going to take place a little bit later on this month. And amplification of the occupational specialisms, all 9 of them, is continuing as we speak. And clearly it's the validation by employers and by yourselves as providers that is going to be required over the coming weeks and months, which is again is why we would urge you to be involved. Just excuse me a second. Sorry about that. Assessment design has already begun. Bearing in mind these aren't ready for first delivery until 2023. And employer and providers will be starting to provide feedback on sample assessments as early as the new year. And clearly for the occupational specialisms piece, this will continue on through the rest of the academic year. And again, that's where we need your involvement. So just to finish then, the people that you'll be dealing with T-level going forward is not just a single person. We'll be working with, it won't be myself. If I'm involved, it will be as an employer, not as a technical advisor, but with Susie Brennan, our post-16 manager, who's been working through the Wave 2 and Wave 3 developments of T-level, so is already highly experienced. Anne Rogers, who is our new technical advisor for Land, who will actually be joining us officially from next week. Richard Burns and Neil Mills, both whom are lead development managers, both whom have already worked in the development of earlier T-levels in other sector areas, so have the experience. And in fact, in this case, we're very, very lucky because Richard has been a quality manager in a very significant land-based agricultural college, and Neil has worked with developments in land-based for the last 10 years, if not more, so have significant experience and knowledge themselves. So your team is highly experienced that will be taking you forward. So thank you very much for listening to this snapshot and introduction. As I say, this presentation will be available for you and emailed to you within 24 hours, is my understanding, the way GoToWebinar is set, but it will also appear along with the slides on the T-level page, the land-based T-level page. And then once the questions have been collated from today and from Wednesday, they will be answered by the team, and they too will be emailed out, but they will also go onto the landing page for land-based T-level. So thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time to attend, and I look forward to seeing the questions that come through.